If you were born connected, if the screen has always been your most constant companion, if the digital world seems more real than the world outside, perhaps you recognize something of what I'm about to describe. It's not a diagnosis, it's not a label. It's just a way of observing certain patterns that the body develops when growing up in a world where being online isn't a choice, it's breathing. And behind each of these silent habits, there's a superpower that almost no one teaches you to see. If any part of this behavior seems familiar to you, share it in the comments. This is a quiet space to recognize yourself and better understand your own superpowers. The way the body relaxes is more with screen light than with natural sunlight. Some people sit on their porch and feel that late afternoon light, that pleasant silence, and their chest tightens. It's not sadness, it's discomfort, as if the body no longer knows what to do with so much empty space. Then you pick up your phone, open anything, and your breathing returns. The light from the screen is more calming than sunlight. This doesn't mean you're addicted or dependent. It means your body has learned to use technology as an emotional regulator. When everything gets too quiet, when the real world demands your full presence, your brain seeks what it knows: movement, color, sound, controlled distraction. It's protection. It's the way you've found to avoid being alone with overly complex thoughts. And perhaps the superpower here is precisely this. You know how to create internal environments that support you. You don't need much. You just need something that acts as an anchor. And the screen has become that, not out of weakness, out of necessity to survive in a world that changes too fast for you to keep up without help. Many people criticize, but few understand that this body that seeks the screen is not running away from life. It is trying to find a bearable rhythm to live in it. How fingers move on their own, searching for the cell phone, even when it's not in a pocket. You're walking down the street, or waiting for someone, or standing in an elevator, and your hand goes to your pocket. Automatically, you look for your cell phone. It's not there. You know it's not. But the movement has already happened. It's almost a reflex, like breathing, like blinking. This gesture isn't just a technological habit. It's the body seeking an anchor point in a world that never stopped. When you're alone, without reference points, without a clear task, the brain enters a state of emptiness that is unsettling, and the cell phone has become the tool that fills this void before it grows too large. It's not about wanting to see notifications. It's about not wanting to feel the inner silence. The superpower here is subtle. You have an extremely high capacity to perceive micro-emptiness. You feel when the pace slows down, when the energy changes, when the environment calls for something, and your body has already learned to fill these spaces before they turn into distress. It's a form of ultra-fast emotional self-management. Perhaps this explains why you can handle so many things at once, because your nervous system has been trained to never be still for too long. And this, instead of being a problem, can be an advantage if you learn to direct that energy to where it really matters. The strange feeling of silence that invades your chest when the internet goes down for 5 minutes. The internet goes down, and suddenly you notice the silence. Not the silence outside, the silence inside. As if the connection wasn't just with the world, but with yourself. And when it disappears, a strange emptiness remains, almost frightening. You look at the ceiling, at the walls, and you don't know what to do with your own hands. This silence isn't empty by chance. It's the body asking for a pause, asking for presence. But since you were never taught to be alone with yourself without external stimuli, the brain interprets this as a threat, as if something were missing. And it is. Not the internet, but the practice of inhabiting your own body without needing noise to do so. The hidden superpower here is immense. You are extremely sensitive to your own loneliness, and that's not a flaw. It's emotional radar. You know when you're disconnected from yourself. The problem is that no one taught you how to use this information. So instead of looking inward, you look outside. And the internet has become the fastest way to do that. But imagine if you learned not to be afraid of this silence. Imagine if, instead of filling it, you simply stayed. Perhaps you would discover that this emptiness is not absence, it's space. And that within this space there is much more of you than you imagine. If you've noticed this way of reacting in yourself or someone close to you, right, this sounds like me. This helps this video reach more people who think and feel similarly. The way the body can only eat, study, or sleep with the video playing in the background. You're going to eat. You open your phone. You put on a video. Any video. It doesn't really matter what it is. What matters is that something's happening. You're going to study. Same thing. You're going to sleep. Same thing. As if the silence were unbearable. As if being alone with the task were too much to bear. This isn't laziness. This is strategy. Your brain has learned that to do difficult or boring things, it needs a second channel of attention. Something to occupy the part of the brain that, if left free, will start thinking, questioning, and feeling too much. So the video becomes company. It becomes the soundtrack of your life. It becomes the way you can function without getting lost in your own thought. The superpower here is that you've developed a rare ability for parallel processing. You can do two things at the same time without becoming disorganized. You can maintain focus on the task while keeping another part of yourself occupied. This, if used well, can make you extremely productive in high-demand environments. But there's a price to pay, because when you train your body to never be alone with itself, you lose the chance to know who you are without noise. And maybe at some point it's worth turning everything off just to see who shows up when it's just you left. How do eyes lose focus in face-to-face conversations but remain attentive on three simultaneous screens? You're in a conversation, in person, and you realize your mind has wandered. Not because the person is boring, but because your brain can't handle that slow pace anymore, that linearity. It wants quick information, images, movement, change, and face-to-face conversation, however good it may be, doesn't offer that. So you get lost. What put you in front of three screens at the same time: cell phone, laptop, TV, and you function perfectly. You can keep up with everything, process everything, respond to everything, as if your nervous system was designed for it, and maybe it was. Because you grew up in a world where divided attention isn't a distraction. It's the default mode of operation. The superpower is obvious. You have a cognitive capacity for simultaneous processing that previous generations lacked. You can navigate between information, context, and stimuli with impressive agility. This makes you extremely adaptable in chaotic environments, in crises, and rapid changes. You don't freeze, you accelerate. But perhaps it's worth asking, haven't you also lost something along the way? The ability to be fully present in one thing, to look into someone's eyes and not feel that itch to check your phone, to be present without needing to be in three places at once. The way your heart races when you see seen without a response, but ignore real people waiting for attention. You send a message, the person sees it, doesn't reply, and your chest tightens, as if it were rejection, as if it were abandonment. You keep checking, waiting, suffering for a reply that maybe isn't even that important. But for you, at that moment, it's everything. Meanwhile, There are people in your house trying to talk to you. Real people, present, wanting attention, and you barely hear them. Because the validation that matters isn't the one in front of you. It's the one on the screen. It's the one that comes from afar. It's the one that, precisely because it's distant, seems to be worth more. The superpower here is painful, but real. You have extreme emotional sensitivity. You sense rejection before it happens. You feel abandonment in small gesture. And this has made you someone who reads invisible signs, who perceives subtle changes, who picks up on coldness where others see nothing. It's a powerful emotional radar, except it's pointed in the wrong place. Because while you're using all that sensitivity to interpret emojis, commas, and ellipses, the real people around you are drifting away. And perhaps the real challenge isn't being less sensitive, but redirecting that sensitivity to those who are close, to those who stay, to those who don't need the internet to be with you. The way the body creates deep connections with strangers online while feeling invisible in its own home. You open your heart to someone you've never met. You tell them things you've never told anyone, and the person understands, or at least seems to understand, and that becomes a refuge. That conversation in the DMIS, that group, that server, those people who see you even without knowing you. Meanwhile, inside your house, you're just another person. Nobody asks how you are. Nobody notices when you disappear. And you don't complain, because you've learned that invisibility is normal, that silence is safety, that it's better not to bother anyone. So you disappear into your phone, and there you exist. The superpower here is immense. You have an incredible ability to create emotional intimacy without needing physical proximity. You can connect with the essence of people, with their words, with the way they think. And that makes you someone profound, someone who understands, someone who is welcoming, even from afar. But perhaps the price of that is high. Because the more you invest in digital connections, the less energy you have left to try to be seen where you actually live. And perhaps at some point it's worth trying the opposite, bringing that depth closer, seeing if there's still time to be seen by those who are by your side. How can the mind memorize 1,000 influencer faces, but forget the name of the neighbor who's lived next door for years? You know the entire life of people you've never met. You know their dramas, their achievements, their routine, their catchphrases. You can recognize their faces anywhere, but you can't remember your neighbor's name. You don't know what he does. You don't know if he has children. And honestly, you've never thought about it. It's not because you're cold. It's because your brain has been trained to value what has a narrative, what has a story, what has editing. And real life, most of the time, doesn't. It's repetitive. It's boring. It's unscripted, so you don't connect. You don't get hooked. You don't care in the same way. The superpower here is strange, but real. You have an enormous capacity to absorb complex narratives and build mental maps of entire universes. You can follow dozens of stories at the same time, process information from various sources, connect dots that seem distant. This gives you a broad, global, diverse world. But perhaps the cost of that is losing the micro, the small, the neighbor, the person who passes by you every day and who, perhaps, has a story as interesting as any influencer. Except that story doesn't come ready-made. You would have to ask, and asking takes work, so you don't ask. If this explanation has made things clearer about your personality, please comment. Now I understand better. Your participation strengthens this community of self-awareness. The automatic way of seeking validation through likes while your heart feels empty, even with thousands of followers. You post, you update, you watch the numbers climb, Each like is a small relief. Each comment is proof that you exist, that you matter, that you're not invisible. But when you turn everything off and are alone, your chest remains empty, as if none of it were real, because it's not. Not in the way you need it. Digital validation is quick, it's superficial, it's volatile, it disappears the next second. And then you need more, and more, and more, in a cycle that never satisfies, because the emptiness you feel isn't about likes. It's about presence, about eye contact, about someone who sees you completely, not just what you show. The superpower here is a sad but important one. You know exactly what's missing. You feel the difference between seeming loved and being loved, between being seen and being known. And that gives you an emotional awareness that many people don't have. You're not easily fooled. You know when something is shallow, when something doesn't hold up. And perhaps precisely because you know this, you have the chance to change, to stop searching outside for what can only come from within, or from close by, from real people, from connections that don't depend on algorithms, that don't disappear when you stop posting. The superpower of being connected to the entire world while simultaneously being completely disconnected from oneself. You have access to everything, to any information, to any person, to any place. You can be in 10 conversations at the same time. You can follow 20 different topics. You can know what's happening on the other side of the planet in real time. You are the most connected generation in history. And yet, you don't know yourself. You don't know what you truly feel. You don't know what you want. You don't know who you would be without the screen. Because every time a moment of boredom, silence, or emptiness arises, you fill it. And you never leave any space for yourself to appear. The ultimate superpower is this. You have the ability to be everywhere at once, to process the entire world, to adapt to any context, to reinvent yourself every second. That's incredible. That's powerful. That's a gift no other generation has had. But perhaps the greatest challenge of your life is learning to disconnect, to stand still, to do nothing, to let boredom exist. Because it is precisely in this emptiness, in this silence, in this space without stimulation, that you will find who you really are. And discover that even without the internet, even without likes, even without anyone watching, you still exist. And that alone is enough. Have you ever noticed this type of behavior in yourself or someone you care about? Share your experience in the comments. Sometimes just reading similar stories makes us feel much less alone. If you enjoy content that reveals the hidden superpowers in your personality, subscribe to the channel. Here, we look at common daily habits with a calmer, deeper, and more human perspective.